what I remember most in terms of inspiration, she told me a lot of things, like never be, never be afraid of anyone stronger than you, and never look down on people weaker than you. But the inspiration is she took all her grandchildren. It was a couple of us at the time. I think I was maybe like 10, and she took all of us to the Washington Monument, and like, this is before it was an elevator in there. So this old lady climbed all the steps with us. We climbed the steps, and we at the top of the Washington Monument, which at that time was the highest point in the nation's capital. And she made me look out the window, and she was like, you see this? I want you to remember that you can do anything. There's nothing you can't do. This is yours. Do with it as you will, and I hope it's for good.
Kymone Freeman is a social justice warrior and a true community leader. Kymone is somebody who leans into adversity and has learned how to use his anger to fuel positive change. Born at DC General Hospital and raised in his grandmother's house at 1624 Kentucky Avenue Southeast, Kymone grew up in an environment of violence and turmoil, which eventually led him to attend school in North Carolina and Alexandria, Virginia. In 1997, Kymone formed the Black Love Festival to address the effects of the AIDS epidemic in Washington, D.C. In 2011, Kymone partnered with Alex Lawson and formed We Act Radio, the only independent radio station east of the river in D.C. Not only is Kymone a true social justice warrior, he is also a Larry Neal award-winning playwright and a hometown hero. In a time when standing up really makes a difference, it's a true honor to sit down with Kymone and really dial in on what makes him tick and who lit that fire. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the one, the only, Kymone Freeman. What up? What's up, Kymone Freeman? How you doing today?
Peace and blessings. I'm sober. Trump's president, but other than that, I'm all right.
Oh man, that sounds like a rough roster.
We're gonna get through this. Get through this.
Yeah. How many more years we gotta go?
Hopefully only one more.
Has it been? Wow.
Yeah, 2020.
Time flies.
Hindsight
man.
is 2020.
Yeah, well.
I'm Bernie all day though.
Oh yeah?
Bernie.
Ooh, we're jumping right out there,
Bernie. Everybody got that idea of some Bernie.
Yeah, I agree. I like Elizabeth Warren's plan to get rid of privatized prisons.
She would be a great vice president because
Yeah.
we need to give it up to the guy that started all this. She would be my number 2 if they do Bernie the same way they did him the last time, and they pick Warren. I won't rebel. Anybody other than Warren or Bernie, I'm calling foul.
I'm here for it, man.
You know what I'm saying? Straight up.
I'll help.
Do you know Bernie got more rappers supporting him than both of the black candidates combined?
Wow.
I'm just like real talk.
Yeah. I mean, Cardi B can take them all the way.
He got Cardi B and Killer Mike. You know what I'm saying? Who the black candidates got? Who they got?
Well, I mean,
Camilla got laughed at doing when she did Breakfast Club.
Right.
I don't know about Cory Booker. I saw Cory Booker and Anacostia Busboys and Poets having lunch with Muriel Bowser.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Suspect.
We'll skip right on over that.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
This is things I see in my travels.
Hey, man, I can dig it. Well, look, I'm really glad that you're here today. I really appreciate you coming to sit and talk with me.
Thank you for having me. Open up your platform and sharing it. Heartcast Media.
Heartcast Media. You know, I'm a big fan of yours. I have always been. I remember the first time I ever saw you in your burned and ripped American flag outfit.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
it's a poncho.
This guy right
It's a poncho.
here. Yes, yeah. I love it.
I rock it every July 4th.
I love it. I love that. Disruption is like the buzzword these days, but like that's always been your jam.
Yeah, it's been my business model. It's my business model. And now I get calls from people who want to be disruptive.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like before we were offensive and now we're disruptive.
Now because Trump's president. Do I need to thank Trump? Ooh.
Oh. We're gonna table that till season 2. You know what I'm saying?
I've been saying that America's corrupt, and we need a revolution. And people say, black militant, it's ridiculous. And now here we are in 2019 and said the system's corrupt. We need a revolution. And people say, you're right.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of terrifying too, right?
Well, don't be scared of it. We need. It's just change. It ain't like we got to cut everybody's heads off. It's just change. 20 years ago we didn't have the technology we have now and democratized the airways and be able to tell our stories. That was a media revolution.
For sure.
This is part of that revolution. You're
right.
a part of that revolution. So
100%. I mean,
and you didn't have to kill nobody.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm reserving the right to do so later.
Yeah. Second Amendment.
My country calls on me.
Yeah. But first bird shot, then buckshot.
Oh yeah.
This is the bird shot.
That's right.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle. Shout out to Dave Chappelle.
So good.
He hooked me up on my play.
I love him.
Yeah.
So speaking of a revolution, I gotta say, man, like I'm such a fan of yours because you just never stop, and I don't even understand. Like every time I look up, there's another article. We Act Radio. Like you're constantly posting information. I mean, literally morning, noon, late afternoon, evening, and night.
Anchor Black Man in Therapy,
I mean, I say all those things like because literally, like, I mean, in the morning you're at some like breakfast to like uplift some community, and then in the afternoon you're like down at like the government buildings and here. I mean, I don't even understand, and I see how much stuff you do behind the scenes. I know how involved you are. I know how much of your personal time you've given. I know how much of your professional life is really dedicated towards like uplifting voices and elevating people and disrupting, but like in a really positive and effective way.
Thank you.
And I wonder all the time, like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you do so much? Like, how do you give so much? I know you have a kid and you have like your own life. And I mean, I'm sure it's difficult, but you seem really balanced. And to me, that's like, it's just so important because even me on the outside, like I get overwhelmed with all the information. I think everybody on this planet that's not a sociopath is really overwhelmed.
Right.
And so how do you like, where does that come from? Like who lit that fire? Like, what is that?
Wow. Well, first I'll say that I read a bumper sticker some time ago and it said that if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. So that really explained a lot for me because as a self-proclaimed black, angry black man in therapy, I'm bombarded with all this information and I have choices on how to react to it. From an emotional level, I could be, intimidated, scared, depressed, or I can be angry. And we've for far too long been told that anger is like a pejorative. And I think uncontrolled anger, yes, uncontrolled anything could be destructive. But when you have an outlet for that anger, it can become rocket fuel. If it's directed, it can drive you. And my anger gets me up in the morning, because I'm bombarded with so much BS in the corporate media. I think they said Trump has lied like 18,000 times. It's been documented, you know what I'm saying? But yet we still listening to him, you know what I'm saying? As if it's, something, So, I mean, what's the guy name? He allegedly committed suicide, and now they dismissed his case. Epstein, Jerry. Like we all know this. Like, oh, really, So that what keeps me going. But what lit the fire was the day Huey P. Newton was killed. The day Huey P. Newton was killed, I was a scab employee working at what was then called CMP Telephone, which later became Bell Atlantic, which later became Verizon, also known as NSA. But I was only hired because there was a strike going on, and because of that strike, there was a shift between management and labor, and I saw that. I come in, 15 minutes late to work, and they're like, "I'm sorry, I'm late." And I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Freeman, so glad you can hear. No problem. Why don't you go in the break room and get yourself something to eat before you sit down and get to work?" Because they were so glad you are there, because they needed the labor. It had this whole power dynamic shift, which was an education unto itself. And I was doing 401 director assistance, which technology has now eliminated that job because now you have Google, But then you have to dial 411 if you wanted information. And so I was even in the information then, you know what I'm saying? But there was a break room with catered food, big screen TV, because they didn't want you crossing the picket line. They wanted you to.
You might not make it back in.
Yeah, they want you to, stay comfortable in there as long. So I'm having breakfast, lunch, and dinner in this joint. And so on one of my many, many breaks, there was a newscast and it said that it said something to the effect like controversial civil rights leader. They did not say Black Panther Party. They said controversial civil rights leader Huey P. Newton was killed today in a drug-infested area in Oakland, California, blah, 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 blah. And this older Black woman, she was sitting there, and she started crying. And this was 1989, it's like, crack was, Ronald Reagan's crack epidemic was sweeping the nation. So I had come accustomed to people getting shot, unfortunately. And so when I saw her crying, I was like, did you know him? And she's like, no, I never met him. I was like, well, who was Huey P. Newton? And she went from grief to rage like that. And as I said, this is 1989. I got on a Public Enemy, African medallion, it's like fight the power, I was already doing that. And she said, you wearing this and you don't know who Huey P. Newton is? She snatches it off my neck, throws it on the floor, stomps it out. She said, you need to go to school. You need to read a book. You need to do something because you don't know. And it was the most humiliating experience of my adult life. And because this was not a private conversation, we're in a break room full of food and a big screen TV. There was several people there.
Right.
And I just sat down and I realized that I don't know anything. That the only thing I know is what I've been taught. Like, I've never read a book independently, without being assigned to. Right. And that's when I made this conscious decision to begin to educate myself, to make information my goal, to consume information, to learn all I can, read all I can, listen, and think for myself. Because, like, I was 19 years old. Why I never heard of Huey P. Newton? Right. I didn't know who, and no one told me. You know what I'm saying? And then I went to ask my parents, and they had a vague, knowledge of him. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah, and then he became my hero. Right. And so so that started, that put the fire in it. It started that day, which is August, by the way. We're in the month of August right now. That. So it's like 30 years ago in a week. 1 week and 30 years ago.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I learned about Huey P. Newton from Grindstone. Actually.
Is that right? Yeah. Life is a grindstone. Whether it sharpens you up or wears you down is your choice. It's all in the angle how you carry it.
Ain't that the truth?
I've been telling Daryl that, so he won't use it, though.
I know. It's good. We should call him up. And that's a good one for sure.
We love grindstone. Independent media, independent clothing designers, independent everything. That's what we need. Indie everything.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. So tell me more. So, in the intro, I talked about how you are the, owner of We Act Radio. Co-owner of We Act Radio, that you are.
I'm the black labor. I got my business partner is the white wealth.
Okay, well,
he's the director of Social Security Works.
Whatever works.
Yeah, we work good together. We work good together. That's my man.
And you are also an award-winning playwright.
Yes. Larry Neal award-winning playwright. Yes,
that's amazing.
That's the highest literary award that the city gives out.
That's impressive.
Yes, thank you.
So I didn't even know about it because
I only got one.
Well, you got more years. You got more gas in the tank, man.
Yeah, because I got it for my first play, so that made me keep writing plays. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I got it for my first play. It was my first play was called Prison Poetry. 3 men, 3 different generations in a holding cell for one night, and it sold out the Lincoln Theater and headlined the Hip Hop Theater Festival. But then it was hard for me without any promotion, sponsorship, to sustain that momentum. And then I kind of like fell off for a minute because I'm like, why am I keep writing these stories and I'm not able to bring them to life?
Right.
But then I realized that I saw Howard Zinn, People Speak, which was a live stage reading of a people's history of the United States. And he had all these actors reading excerpts from his book. And people came to see that. I was working for Ralph Nader. I was living in New York. I had just came back. I got fired from the post office, and that would thrust me into the independent life. I lost my job because I was making anti-war statements to a congressman's wife. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know who she was. She just said some slick stuff to me, and I couldn't let her ride. Like she said something that offended me as a man, and as a black person. So you're going to get it now, like, cause she, and so it didn't get ugly. I just thought we was having a debate, but I ended up getting fired by that. But because I got fired, I was then afforded the opportunity to travel to Africa. I spent the summer in Nairobi, Kenya. I was paid to go for 6 weeks for courtesy of the American Friends Service Committee, where they had activists from all over the continent and the country converged in Nairobi for an intense workshop training, leadership training. And I was, because if I had a job, they wouldn't have gave me 6 weeks off of work to go there.
Right.
And so I went there. And then after that, I was given the opportunity to drive a promotional vehicle for Ralph Nader in New York. And so I'm driving all over New York. And one of the events that I covered was Howard Zinn's People Speak. And I actually got a chance to meet Howard Zinn and talk to him quite a few times, courtesy of Busboys and Poets. I actually, chilled with Howard a couple times. And when I saw him do his production like that, I realized that I didn't have to have the money to do a full-scale production just to have an event. I could do stage readings, and people will come for that. And that actually also encourages more literacy. I'm coming to sit down and have a drink and listen to you read something.
Right.
Tell me a bedtime story. And that's what I've been doing, And the current production is the night Michael Jackson died, 5 actors and a DJ. We just did it. We just wrapped up our 4th production. It was the first theatrical performance ever at the Hamilton downtown. We did SOBs in New York City because, I had to go to New York because that's where I got the idea. And we did the Arc Theater with the Black Theater Festival. And we just wrapped up at the Eaton, for Michael Jackson's birthday. And it took 4 productions to get a funder to say, yo, I like this.
That's awesome.
We need to do something.
Congratulations.
So thank you.
That.
I mean, the check hasn't cleared yet, but so we're gonna keep forward. We're moving forward. And there's so many things I want to do. I want to be a media mogul. I have a film I want to do. It's an animation film, sci-fi film about a conflict over water. I'm about to put that out. I gotta you're gonna see me raising money to do that. Of course, I got the radio station. I want to, make it rebranded for independent music. I want to just play independent artists, just nothing but independent artists. I want to do that.
That's awesome.
I hope you join me because we really need to have a platform for them. So I want to be like independent candidates, independent film, independent art, independent writers, indie everything. Indie everything.
So, a lot of times you hear a lot of like catchphrases recently with everybody being an entrepreneur and whatever, right? And something that I hear a lot is people talk about imposter syndrome, where they feel like, especially with women, where they get into a position and then they feel like they really shouldn't be there or they don't deserve that money. But it doesn't really seem like, at any point in your life you ever like second guessed your not only your willingness, but like that you deserve to be in every position that you're in. Is that an accurate like observation?
I'm glad it looks that way. I'm glad it looks that way because you got to understand, coming from Black culture in America, we was told more so than the average person. We all get this, but we was told more so than the average person, you can't do this,
right? Or
you're not supposed to do that. And I remember telling my parents, I wanted to own a restaurant. I was a kid, I'm like, I want a restaurant, and I'm gonna cook these foods. I'm gonna tell stories to my guests and everything. And I thought they would be proud because I had a vision of what I wanted to do. And to be honest with you, if all else fails, and I just end up as that old guy with a soup kitchen, and people just come in to tell the stories, what I'm saying, I would be all right with that.
Right.
I don't mind cooking,
right?
And telling stories obviously is a thrill for me, so that'll be all right. But I told my parents, and instead of encouraging me, they were like, "Oh wow, just because you can cook doesn't mean you can run a restaurant. Nobody, you don't know nobody that owns a restaurant. Most restaurants end in the first 5 years. It's a lot of hard work. It's a very small profit margin. And by the time they finish, I was like, well, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Like they just killed my dream. You know what I'm saying? These are parents, the people that love me.
For sure.
They love me, but they was like, in their mind,
protect you.
You need to get that job at the post office. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay. And now one of my closest friends is Shalal, who owns one of the most successful restaurant chains in the city. You know what I'm saying? We about to do another project together. So,
So what pushed you past that? Like, what pushed you past, like, especially when you have, parents or influential people in your life, like saying, hey, you can't do that, or that's not the right thing. Like, was it that trip that you took? Like, it seems
those
like
trips,
you saw something and then it never went away.
Those trips were kind of like, move me to action.
Mm-hmm.
But for the thought process, I will credit my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Lily Ann Lewis Richardson, 428 Kentucky Avenue Southeast. And she I was her first grandchild, so I think she poured a lot into me, and I remember it. And what I remember most in terms of inspiration, she told me a lot of things, like never be, never be afraid of anyone stronger than you, and never look down on people weaker than you. You
That's a
know,
good one.
yeah, I repeat that often. I think of it often, but the inspiration is she took all her grandchildren. It was a couple of us at the time. I think I was maybe like 10, and she took all of us to the Washington Monument, and like this is before it was an elevator in there. So this old lady climbed all the steps with us. We climbed the steps, and we at the top of the Washington Monument, which at that time was the highest point in the nation's capital. And she made me look out the window, and she was like, you see this? I want you to remember that you can do anything. There's nothing you can't do. This is yours. Do with it as you will, and I hope it's for good. And so it's just something like that. And I just remember that, and I didn't get it at the time. But when she passed away when I was 13, unfortunately, she worked herself to death. She had 2 jobs. I mean, I've seen my grandmother scrubbing floors. Like I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when someone tells me, if you just work harder, you could, you're poor because you're just not working hard enough.
Right.
That would lead me to a visceral reaction. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone got a trigger. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got a trigger. Like somebody could say the N-word to me. To me, they could say the N-word to me, and it's not going to get the same visceral reaction as if they said, poor people just need to work harder. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just to give you the context. Now, I ain't saying that you ain't going to get a reaction. Right. I say you're not going to get the same visceral reaction you would expect.
Right.
Just to give you some point of reference. But my grandmother started the thought process. And, I always tell people that, when I'm working with Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, young people, I'm a product of the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, by the way. Got my first opportunity to see past my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I tell them that, you can't believe in God more than you believe in yourself. And the status quo would tell you that's just the opposite. Like, how dare you? That's blasphemous. No, right. I'm being realistic. How can you possibly believe in an entity you never seen, never spoke to, you know what I'm saying? And if you did hear something from them, they have a place to put you, and you don't believe in yourself that you have complete dominion over. Right. Like, how does that work? Right. How does that work? I just leave it up to the Lord. And you ain't gonna do shit.
Right.
Like, nah. I have complete dominion. I believe in myself. I once I realized that the most revolutionary thing I can do, is to believe in myself completely. In any situation. No one, I'm speaking to the mayor. I don't feel intimidated.
Right.
I could speak to the president. I wouldn't feel intimidated. You know what I'm saying? Like especially now.
Well,
Trump,
know,
like we all all are superior to this dude.
My dog.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like really, dude? Okay. So that's why I encourage people, because we have to believe in ourselves. And I'm glad that you have the perception, have perceived that confidence, because I think, what's my sister's name? Maya Angelou, she said that confidence is the most important virtue, because without confidence, you can't practice any other virtue. You have to be confident in yourself and comfortable with failing. Mm-hmm. One of the things I do is I listen to, positive things, inspirational quotes. I collect quotes. Denzel says that if you don't fail, you're not even trying.
It's true.
He was like, you supposed to, you have to accept failure. It's part of the process. Actors go for a role and they don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, failure is like, what is that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just preparation. Failure is just preparation.
Well, and it's like a state of mind, right? Like you said, you did 4 versions of the night Michael Jackson died, and then on the 4th one is when you got a funder, but that certainly wasn't a measure of his success, right? No. All 4 events were successful. Now it's at a level of success where it can be sustained, right?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, all 4 productions didn't make money. Only 2 of them made money in terms of making a profit. 2 of them I lost money.
Right.
2 of them I made money. And now here we are.
Well,
So
and you know what I like to say, like instead of saying I lost money on something, I say it was a good investment.
it's definitely a good
Because
investment.
it wasn't like you went to the MGM Grand and threw some
And
money
blew it
down on
away,
the
yeah.
table. That's losing money, right? You're investing in your
You invested
future
in
and the
yourself.
future of other people, and so
Yeah,
it's not
invest in
really a
yourself.
loss. So you grew up in DC, like you've been in this city for a long time. So how do you
49 years.
how do you feel? I mean, it's like you get in every Uber or every like low key conversation is like, oh, the city's changed so much. Like where are you at with that? Like, are you feeling motivated by these things? Are
Absolutely.
you feeling frustrated by these things? I mean, you're very active with
Nah,
lots of different organizations.
I'm
So
very motivated by these things because adversity will introduce a man to himself.
mm,
That who said that? I don't know if that was Les Brown. I think it was Les Brown because I listen to stuff all the time. You have to protect your thoughts. Like I said, like for example, the Washington Post Express. This is something that uh, um, you know they produce and it's free, and they will shove it into your hand if you try to get on a train
right.
during rush hour. All right, this is what they want you to read,
Mm-hmm.
but the real people are reading, Business Journal, Wall Street Journal. Like
Right.
that's really heavyweight stuff there. And so I'm always cognizant that in terms of information, it's like food. You have junk food. You got a good, the filet mignon, and you get the healthy vegetables and stuff. And you have to be very cognizant of what you are allowing to ingest and put into your mind. But
Mm-hmm.
also, not even that, not even just the six corporations that control most of what we see here and read, but just simply our own thought process. Our biggest enemies is ourselves, that little voice in our head that's going to be telling us, you can't do that, or you shouldn't try that, or you second guessing yourself, and da 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 da. I would say that it is influenced by the external, but it's really the internal that's probably the most damaging.
100%.
I would say that. So we need to take control over that. And so, in order to build up intellectual immunity system, you need to have positive affirmations, whether you got to look in the mirror and say that you're beautiful, you're strong, and you're capable. If you got to say that every morning before you walk out the door to fix your face. I remember when I was a child, fix your face, fix your face, then you need to do that. If you need to listen to inspirational and motivational speeches to get you up and fired up, then you need to do that. That builds up your immunity. So when you encounter the BS, it's kind of like it's a fair fight. It's a fair fight.
Yeah, because you certainly like see enough of that, hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You see, it's not like you're blind to it, but it definitely seems to fuel you to like do more, but not in a destructive way, in a very helpful way, in a very
Yeah, you have that
positive way.
outlet. And you was talking about the status of the city, where, for those who do not know, DC has been reported to have the most rapid rate of gentrification than any other city in the entire country. That is one of the most expensive cities to raise a child in, and I'm
You
fighting
live
all
in
of that.
that. Yeah.
And what I say is that Alice Walker said that the greatest power is convincing people they don't have any.
Mm.
And because I heard so many people say, "Oh, well, these are old heads, but 20 years ago in the 90s, was that when that Green Line opened on U Street, it's gonna be gone. The white folks gonna move in here and take everything over. You just watch, and that's what they did. They just sat and watched. They didn't do anything about
Right.
it, And there we are. So now I have the same type of people telling me, "Oh, well, Kymone, gentrification's coming, and where you gonna move?" I ain't moving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right here, because just because you move in doesn't mean I got to move out. So we're here to say to the powers that be that rather than simply, Gil Scott Heron said that change is inevitable, but rather than simply continue to go through the change, we're here to direct the change. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to just accept to be shaped by policy. We're beginning to shape policy. So we have created Douglas Community Land Trust, which is putting a leash on gentrification. So like a developer's deal for the community. And we have an event coming up on September the 7th. I hope this broadcast reaches the people prior to then. And Douglas, if you're not familiar with Community Land Trust, I urge you to subscribe to We Act Radio's YouTube channel, and just put in We Act Radio Community Land Trust, and we'll do a whole presentation on it for you. The event that we have is called it's a block party for a right to stay and thrive. It's Saturday, September the 7th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Union Temple Baptist Church in Anacostia. We got Councilman Trayon, Ward 8 White, Ginger Rumpf. She is the executive director of the Douglas Community Land Trust. I'm on the board of the Douglas Community Land Trust.
Nice.
We have Brenda Jones, who's a former executive director of Parklands Community Center. And Ron Moten at Checking Enterprises.
Nice.
This is a right to stay and thrive. So we're breaking it down, and just to give you some background information, Moten from Checking Enterprises just got a deal with the city to buy our buildings. So now we're going to own our buildings.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I saw this in the news, and I've been wanting to ask you about this. Like, what does that actually mean?
Well, that really means that technically Moten and Checking Enterprises will own the buildings, but so it eliminates us being displaced. But it remains to be seen, is that going to mean that it's 3 buildings, it's 3 businesses. If all 3 is going to, is he going to be a capitalist, or is he going to be, a democratic socialist and allow us to own our own property?
Right.
So Ron, do the right thing.
That's right, Ron.
Yeah, do the right thing. But he's a good dude. He's controversial, but he means well.
I mean, I think there's no way to avoid being controversial. Like at some point, right? Like if you're doing anything, you're gonna ruffle feathers. You're gonna make waves.
He and I disagree on a lot of things, tactics, a lot of things. But at the end of the day, we're neighbors, and we have to push in the same direction.
I tell you, like, if there's anything that I've learned from the last couple of years and like the mistakes that I've made and the victories and the losses, is that I think that we all need better allies and advisors and a lot less enemies, and sometimes that we see things that maybe somebody else doesn't see. And instead of just not liking that person or being their enemy or talking shit behind their back, like,
that's petty. I think that's childish.
Right. Let's work together, because maybe I'm seeing something that you're not, and maybe you'd benefit from that information. And
to the young people coming up, it's not going to be your friends. I mean, when I say your friends, I'm talking about the people that you hang out with and you kill with. Those are not going to be the people that you're going to do business with.
Right.
Then it's not to say that they're not bad people, but they're not the ones that's going to take you to the next level. You're gonna have to go outside your comfort zone to go to the next level, and we need to understand that. And I don't have to like your shoes to work with you. You know, we have to agree on some fundamental things.
Right.
But that's not one of them. And so I urge people to look outside their comfort zone to figure out what they want to do. And that's what we need to, the lesson we need to learn. And then one thing for the Black community, we've been told that we have to make it on our own, and nobody does that. Nobody makes it on their own. Everyone is the result of a collective. We are here because 2 people did something.
Yeah, right.
Baseline. You didn't just show up by yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Immaculate conception style.
Because people talking about, I came in the world alone. No, you didn't. Ain't nobody came in this world alone. Somebody was in the room.
At least
one was in the room. You was not alone. Talking about, you might die alone. That might happen. But you ain't coming to this world alone. Stop playing, man.
Back. So what do you think? I mean, that's such an important point to bring up, that you don't have to agree with everybody that you're doing business with, and I'm sure, or that you're.
I don't agree with everything my mother say. Well, you know what I'm saying? And that's my mother. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I don't agree on most of the things my mother says.
No disrespect, Mom.
You know what I'm saying? Ain't no disrespect. I don't agree with most of the things that come out of her mouth. I don't.
Right.
But that's still my mother. So why I can't work with you? Because, as soon as we disagree one time, our relationship is over. You know what I'm saying? That's idiocy.
Well, and that's kind of where we're at with this, call out and cancel culture, right? There's something to be said for holding people accountable, for sure, but then there's something to be said for missing an opportunity to educate somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I'm doing a play on Michael Jackson, man. I got so many people coming at me. It was like, how you gonna do a place on Michael pedophile Jackson? I'm like, look, they haven't even closed one Catholic church, but I can't talk about Michael Jackson. Are you serious? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Plus, you can't say Michael Jackson in the same vein as you could say, R. Kelly, of course, or Bill Cosby, because these people are proven guilty.
Right.
They have been proven guilty. You know what I'm saying? Mike has not been proven guilty, and he's not here to defend himself. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, the allegations against him is by two people who perjured themselves in the criminal trial that he was acquitted from in his defense.
So how do you deal with all? Do you just tune a certain amount of that out, and you just
you
like
have to. Yeah,
forge,
man, look, Martin Luther King, our beloved Martin Luther King, was despised at the time of his death. There was churches, black churches, that wouldn't allow him to speak in because he spoke out against the Vietnam War. You know what I'm saying? He was disrespected by people like, oh man, the list is so long. Thurgood Marshall disrespected Martin Luther King, said that he was a boy on a man's errand. You know what I'm saying? And come on, one of the most disrespectful things you can do is to a black man is call him a boy.
for sure.
You know what I'm saying? It might even upstage the N word. Who else? Whoever was the first black Nobel Peace Prize winner, I can't think of his name right now. Ralph Bunchy. Ralph Bunchy, who has a hall named after him on Howard University, and rightfully so. But Ralph Bunchy, who received the Nobel Peace Prize, criticized Martin Luther King for speaking out against a war, who also received the Nobel Peace Prize. So, I mean, that's just to give you some examples. It got real ugly, So once I realized that people of that caliber were despised and criticized and attacked, that's when I realized that the moment I start getting criticized, ridiculed, and attacked, I'm doing my job. And so I take it completely the other way. I don't get depressed, but I'm like, thank you. It's like Flintstone vitamins.
So nothing. You don't have a moment of self doubt, or you.
The only time I got self doubt is when that beautiful woman is not gonna give me her number. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I'm good. More haters, please. More.
I don't know if you listen to Gary Vee at all, but he's a marketing guy, and people like either love him or they hate him. There's like absolutely no middle ground. And people ask him all the time, like, how do you deal with all the haters? Like, do they get in your head? And he was like, I don't listen to anybody. The people that praise me, I don't let that go to my head. And the people that hate me, I don't let that go to my head either. He's like, I ignore all of them, and I just base how I feel on myself and who I am.
Well, I'm glad that works for him, but for me, I mean, I'm in the business of media, and it's supposed to be a give and take. So I will listen to everything. I actually listen to everything. If it reaches my attention,
right?
I listen to everything. Now, and yeah, I can be affected by something, and sometimes I'm wrong. And when I'm wrong, I have to be like Malcolm X and admit it and move on. Look how many times he changed his position.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Malcolm changed his position. That's what, and it's okay. I'm continuously evolving. I'm growing. I'm learning. Like for example, when I'm doing my plays, and we have these multiple readings, somebody come to me, well, I didn't like that part because this made me feel that way. I take that in consideration. I try to, edit, and that's good. So I respect his comment. I'm glad that's working for him. But for me, I have to listen to it all because the bad, the good, and the ugly. Because sometimes, as I said before, I could stand some correction. I'm open to that. I'm open to that. But at the end of the day, yes, I agree with him. It's not going to determine my direction.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going to deter my efforts. It's not. Because if that was the case, then I would be, they say that you should be like on your principles, you should stand firm, on your principles. That should be unbreakable. But on your motives and ways and means, those are negotiable,
right.
And you should bend.
Right.
You should bend with those. And that's what I try to do.
Principle over circumstance.
Absolutely. But I don't think the end always justifies the means, though. I used to think that a lot of times that the end justifies the means. And in most cases it can. But it's not always. It's not always. I don't think the end always justifies the means. Because just because you got something out of it at the end, was it really worth it?
Right.
You know, was it really, really worth it? And so I always try to remember that.
So let me ask you, how do you balance like your mental health and your needs? Like what do you do? Do you meditate? I mean, I know you read a lot. You know,
I don't read enough. I don't need enough. I need to discipline myself to make an hour, allocate an hour every day to read. And in fact, I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now on your show. I'm allocating on what's the day? August the 30th, 2019. That I will allocate an hour a day to read for the rest of my life.
I mean, that's
1 hour.
amazing. I've been
1
reading
hour.
a book a week.
Yeah.
For the
So you're
last
knocking
8
it down.
months.
Yeah, you knocking it down. That's you deserve.
And I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
more.
not
than,
gonna lie.
That's more than what people might read in 5 years.
Well, I've been really making an effort. I read a stat that said the average human has 500 or 50,000 thoughts a day, and 70% of them are negative, and more than half of them are thoughts that you've already had. And that just that resonated with me, and I decided that I wasn't just gonna kick around the same thoughts over and over again, because then you're just reaffirming your own bullshit. You know what I mean? On some level, like you got to let some diversity of thought in. You need to learn things, and you're not gonna get that on the scroll. You're not gonna get that, and it made me realize how short my attention span is. It made me realize how difficult it's become to read. It made me realize how difficult it is to get off of social media, like how that's really such a trigger. And it's really it's lengthened my mental elasticity. You know what I mean? Like
mental
I've learned
elasticity. I like that.
We used to be better at concentrating. We used to be better at reading.
I think technology is making us stupid. We used to know how many phone numbers by heart.
Right.
We used to know dozens of people's phone number by heart.
Yeah, I hope my best friend from high school's parents never move, because it's the only phone number I remember. And if I ever have to dial one from the police station, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, Miss
that's when you find out who your friends are. Like, who do I know?
Like, hi, remember me from 25 years ago?" So
but I'm a self-proclaimed anger black man in therapy, so I acknowledge that therapy is good. We all need to be working on it. I'm here to break the chain, break the cycle, stop the BS. And so. Again, as I alluded, I could be depressed with some of the stuff I do, and I have been. And there's things I do when I'm depressed. I love watching children play. And fortunately, I have a son, so that gives me an opportunity quite often. I love watching old people dance. It gives me a spice for life. And if none of that is available, then I just go to a strip club. Because if a beautiful woman dancing in front of you naked doesn't get you excited about life again.
You're like kids, hand dancing, or strippers. It's a linear path.
Yeah, well, usually I don't have any money, so I don't do the strip. That's not my first choice. That's wasting money.
You're hilarious.
What's more important than wasting money in a strip club? Credit.
Fact. Well, it's like Panama, the engineer over here. We were talking about therapy recently, and I said, everybody needs therapy. And she said, you know what? Everybody deserves therapy. And I thought, I've quoted her 5 or 6 times since then. And I think that is such a strong statement that we deserve therapy. You don't need therapy. There's nothing wrong with you. We deserve therapy. And what a better way to think about that.
Yeah, you know what you got to go through?
And realize that.
Just to hold it together.
Right.
Just to hold it together. And, and I also watch people. I'm very much a people watcher. I ride the metro a lot, and I can see by people's body language if they're miserable, if they're content, or if they, happy, especially in the morning or in the evening, the rush hour. You can really tell it. It's particularly the going home part. The going home part, you can see people really burnt out, man.
Right, because in the beginning of the day, they're going to work. They might be thinking about that. But at the end of the day, the work is over. And what are they going home to? How do they feel about it?
There's people think this is a joke, but I guess it was presented as a joke. But it always comes across as a story. So it's 3 men in a bar. And the bartender says, last call for alcohol. And one guy says, hey, man, I got to go. The next guy says, hey, one more. And the third guy says, I'm buying, right? And so that's to symbolize the guy who says, I got to go. He has a reason to leave. Maybe he has someone at home waiting for him.
Right.
Maybe he has an important job in the morning. He has something to look forward to. Right. I got to go. The one says one more. He may have something, but it's not exciting. It's not very fulfilling. He's not in a real hurry, right. And then the guy says, I'm buying, is this miserable bastard that would pay for the pleasure of your company. You know what I'm saying? He just does not want to be alone. He's in pain somewhere in his life, you know? And we've all been in those individual spaces at some
Right.
point. And I think therapy can guide us through those natural statuses in our lives, you know?
And on that note, like, how would you suggest? Because I know a lot of young brothers that like aren't getting therapy, and I encourage them, and I've even done like therapy challenges to say like, I'll go if you go, like anything, just
Hmm.
to. Where do you suggest people start? Like, if you live in
Well,
DC and you don't have therapy and you're on Medicaid, right? You don't think you have resources. Like, what would you recommend someone to do? Where should
smoke
they
weed,
start?
smoke weed, smoke weed on rooftops. Smoke weed on rooftops. And smoke weed on rooftops if you possibly ever can alone.
Hmm.
Go to a rooftop and smoke a joint by yourself and sit down. Don't play no music. Don't play no music. Don't check your phone. Don't watch no film. Just sit down in silence and smoke a J on a rooftop to clear your head. Because some of this we got to acknowledge. Poverty is terrorism. Madiba, Nelson Mandela said that poverty is terrorism,
Mm.
and so a lot of people not being able to afford the same quality care
Right.
that others can, and so the ghetto version would be to smoke a J, some loud on a rooftop by yourself in silence, and see how you feel when you come back down from the mountaintop. I guarantee you're gonna feel better.
I mean, a little bit of silence, clears
How
that
often do we get
headspace.
that?
It's so hard.
And no, and don't be scared to don't be as scared to scream once in a while. You should. I think everyone should scream once in a while. Like just scream. It just I think that's part of why some people like orgasms. But you scream. Let us scream out once in a while because we are forced to be quiet too often. She making too much loud. Like how often are you told louder? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. How often we hear that?
Right. Well, especially as a woman, if I'm upset, everybody's like, "Whoa, calm down. You're so emotional."
Oh
Right?
wow, nah,
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
nah. Scream once in a while. It's good for you.
I can dig it, man.
Yeah, that's part of my therapy.
I can dig it.
Yeah,
So, what would be your advice? Because if I had to classify you, I would call you a true social justice warrior. Which I don't
thank
know.
you,
I don't know if you
thank you.
like that term or
I'm
not.
all right with that. I rock with it.
I think that term is thrown around a lot, but like you're really in the streets. I mean, you're involved in like educating people in different bookstores and literacy movements and play. I mean, you're involved in so many different forms of self-expression to like present and distribute a message. It's
Mm,
undeniable. And so, for people who are, I know there's a lot of people out there that are feeling like, motivated or triggered or whatever you want to call it by like
mm,
everything that's going on. And they're like, I don't know, I either want to burn shit down or I like just want to stay in bed and I want to help. I don't know where to start. Like the city doesn't feel like it's for me anymore, whether it's here or Chicago. It doesn't matter, right? Like it's a lot of stuff is happening across the country. What's your advice to people who wanna start? Like, what should they do? Should they find an elder in their community? Should they volunteer? Like, if you could give any advice to somebody who feels like, man, I want to do something, but I don't know what.
well, I definitely would encourage them to make time for reading books of their interest. It would spark their thought process. It would feed their thought process. We recently lost Toni Morrison, and I was so shocked by the number of people who had never read a book from
Mm.
Toni Morrison. And I remember having a debate with a sister. This is a black woman, and she was saying, "Well, just because you haven't read Toni Morrison doesn't mean you're not well read." I'm like, "No, boo boo. If you're black and you have never read a book from Toni Morrison, you are not well read. I'm sorry, you know." And she was offended by that, but those are facts. That's like telling me just because you haven't been to the National Museum of African American History and Culture doesn't really mean that you have not really seen and enjoyed or experienced, black
Right.
culture in America. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, no, dude, you need to go see the connotation of the documents. You
Right.
need to see that. That right there is the creme de la creme honoring our culture. You need to see that. And so for the people that want to get started, yeah, go read, go to museums, take in. You need to take in, because really, for you to have that question is because your soul has been depleted, and you don't know because you haven't consumed enough of the answers. You've been overwhelmed by the obstacles and the problems, and you haven't offset that by the input. In order for it to have some output, you got to have some input. So what are you taking in? Garbage in, garbage out. So you're not going to get anything different. You got to put something different into your tank. And so, having said that, I will also say that, start where you are. You don't have to do big things. You don't have to, create a miracle. There's a knucklehead on your block. You know who the knucklehead is. Pick one. Throw a book at him. Give him $5 for reading a book. Here's, you read this, I'll give you $5.
Right.
Here's a few bucks to wash my car. And while he's washing your car, you gonna DJ. You're gonna play certain music, and you're gonna be like, you know what I'm saying? You can have conversation when they're opening him up and dialogue. You might change his thought process. And what we need to understand is that when we think we are teaching, we're actually learning. Because then he's gonna tell you something. Oh, the young boy is doing that now. Oh, that's what they call it. You know what I'm saying? You 49, he's 19. You speaking different languages.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't, I am not old dude, but
old enough.
I'm old enough.
Yeah.
And I would say that we also, I think littering. This may sound, elementary to you, but I think it's a big deal. I think littering is a form of a litmus test for your mental condition. I think that for a person to take a McDonald's bag and throw it out the car window is toxic in your thought process. I think the person that just carelessly drops his water bottle on a corner while he's standing there and a trash can is next to him is something toxic in your thought process. I think the person that walked past the same garbage on the sidewalk and they have to walk around it on the way to their house and on the way to their job every day and never thinks to pick it up and throw it away.
Even if it's not theirs.
Yeah, it's not theirs, but it's there. You seeing it every day. It's something toxic in their thought process. And so just clean your block.
Well,
clean your block is to be, clean thoughts.
For sure. And I mean, I think there's something to be said too. For
I go out and sweep the block on my storefront. Come on. If you go into my studio and there was a bunch of litter and garbage on the sidewalk in front of my studio, when you be like, yo, you're not gonna say, did you throw that down? You be like, why that's not cleaned up?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I'm gonna tell you, well, I ain't put it there.
Exactly.
Then you would look at me like, and you're an activist and you're trying to change something. You know what I'm saying? Like, really? And I go out and there's a bus stop on my block, on my corner next to me, and I go out there readily and I have to pick out trash. I look people in their eyes. I see them throw stuff on the ground and I challenge them like, yo, why you gonna throw that on the ground on our block? This our block, man.
Right.
Trash can right there, man. And you know what most of them say? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. And they stopped doing it.
They're just not really paying attention.
Yeah, they wasn't thinking. They wasn't thinking.
On auto.
I actually heard them say that. No, I'm not bad. I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like we're also like overstimulated by this like really bad content all the time. The scroll, right? Just the noise. And then I read recently that there's like a name for it, but the people who are the most educated and the most knowledgeable about whatever it is, it's like the more information you gain, the less willing you are to speak on certain things, because the more you learn, the more you realize that you know even less, right?
The man that knows anything knows he knows nothing at all.
Exactly. And then the people who, think they know everything are literally skimming headlines on Facebook and then throwing them back at you.
Sound like our president. Our president says he doesn't read. He doesn't have time to read. It's neat. I think Kanye West said it too. He doesn't read. Doesn't read.
Well, that's a shame. That's absolutely a shame.
Well, yeah, it is. But I want people to feel motivated to do anything in their wildest dreams and pursue that, because we're only here for a very brief blip in the history of the world. Indeed. And you should also enjoy yourself. Enjoy all your trips around the sun, and make sure that you do all you can. And I think that we all need to strive for balance. We should all try to repair relationships with the people that we love. Mm-hmm. If I love you, I will argue with you. If I don't love you, I'm not going to argue with you. Arguing for me is because I'm spending time to try to salvage this relationship, because obviously what you think.
care,
And
right.
you know what I'm saying? We're not there. We're trying to get some clarity because
Right.
I'm invested in this relationship. And if I wasn't, then I wouldn't even, I could care less.
Just keep it moving.
You know, so
right.
only argue with people that you love and respect. If I don't love and respect you, I don't, hey, Joe, whatever.
That's a really
And
good
keep it moving.
marker. You know?
Yeah, because it would save a lot of drama, you know, a lot of drama. And I don't like a lot of noise. And when I say noise, you know, I came from a loud, screaming type family environment. And I promised myself that I would have peace in my home. And I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have peace in my home. And we have to have a sanctuary to go to. And a lot of us don't have it. Hence, you might need a J on the rooftop.
That's right.
And solitude.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a form of meditation, right? Like anytime you can just stop and be.
You know, truth be
where you
told,
are.
one of the things that is transformative in prisons, you know how people go to prison and they come back and they different.
Right.
They different. They don't necessarily have had to have been like, you know, some crime against humanity. They was raped or beaten. You know, that's not always the case.
Right.
Sometimes it's just they have spent a lot of time thinking.
And being present with themselves.
This was the first time they was alone. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, no TV, you know, no music, no friends. Because, you know, when I moved, when I had my first apartment, I was 24 years old. I got my first apartment. I mean, I had my first apartment at 19, but I wasn't alone, you know, because I had my friends, my brother, you know what I'm saying? But when I was 24, I lived alone.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first 6 months, I would call people, hey, what you doing? You want to come over? You know, because I felt like being alone was something wrong with being alone. I'm bored. Now I'm bored.
Right.
You know, and then 6 months after that, people would be over your house and I'd be like, okay, you know, it's time
Y'all
to
gotta
go.
Yeah.
You know, because then you start being comfortable with yourself. And I think not enough of us spend enough time alone. You need to get inside your own head. And only solitude is going to give you that. You know, I urge people to, you know, go get a hotel room by themselves for the weekend.
You know, I do stuff like that all the time.
That's
so
your break.
For about a year, I was a hotel analyst. I was a secret shopper for
Oh, really?
hotels, resorts, and casinos.
Oh, you got paid for your solitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, this is like, I mean, I had a cell phone, but it you know, you could only make phone calls on it. You know what I'm saying? This is in 2005, 2003. And so I would travel around, but I was alone.
That was my transformative year right there, 2003.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I got fired in 2003.
I sold a house in 2003, moved to California. So no, it's 2005. But I spent a lot of time traveling alone. And up until that point, I wouldn't eat in a restaurant alone. I wouldn't do anything alone. And then I had to do it. And it changed. It changed who I am as a person, 100%.
Like, a lot of people would never have dinner alone. They think something wrong with it.
Now I'm like, I'll go to a 4-star restaurant by myself.
Or go to the movies alone. Like, I got to convince somebody to go to the movies with me. Are you serious? Like, I want to go see the movie.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I don't mind being alone at all.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
There's another quote. I wish I can say it correctly. It was like, I will only entertain company if their presence exceeds my solitude.
Ooh.
I just messed it up, but that's the gist of it.
It's pretty solid, nonetheless.
And that's how I look at people. Like, you know, like, hey, what you doing? I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right.
Yeah. What you doing? I'm chilling. I'm good.
Right.
Good.
Or just not answer the phone. That's kind of my jam.
Yeah, you know, that's pretty much the same thing. But it's, you know, I treasure our friendship and I admire you as well.
Same.
The work you do, One Love, massive, and what you came from and what you went through and how you landed on your feet like the cool cat you are.
Thanks,
you
man.
know. And the fact that we are, you know, we generally respect each other, and people's like, oh, you messing with her, and I'm sure you probably heard, you messing with him. Like, yeah, that's my people.
Because
you don't like it,
it's okay.
Because I got a lot of that when we was doing the Black Love Festival together.
Right.
And I was like, what are you talking about? She's dope.
I mean, you heard it here,
She's
folks.
Dope.
You know.
You know, I met my business partner. I met doing the Black Love Festival. My white business partner, I met doing the Black Love Festival. Had I not done that event, I would have never met him, and we
Right.
wouldn't have a relationship. And then when come to find out, his dream was to have an independent radio station. And so when I started the process of creating one and came up short financially, he was there to back me up.
Right. And I mean, that's what it's all about. Like
That's
again,
what
we
I'm
need
saying.
allies
Step outside
and
your comfort
advisors.
zone.
Right.
Step outside your comfort zone. You ain't gonna get it. You if you're not outside your comfort zone, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're not trying. And if you're not, and if you don't fail, you're not trying. So, I think that people are like, oh, I failed. I remember, what's my brother, man? He passed away. Eddie Murphy's brother. I hate saying it like that because I can't think of his name. Charlie Murphy.
Charlie Murphy.
Yeah, Charlie
exactly.
Murphy. God bless him. Charlie Murphy was telling this story that he had bombed on stage, right? Like booed, like he did suck, like it's like all that. People want their money back type. That how bad he was.
Man, that would be so bad.
And so he calls his little brother, the star,
Right.
Eddie Murphy. He said, man, I don't know what we're going to do. They booed me on the stage. People want their money back. And Eddie Murphy's like, dude, the F is wrong with you. I bomb. Richard Pryor bombed. So-and-so bombed. So-and-so, but he was ringing and bomb. They bombed. He's this names. It's like 10 people's names. Bombed. And you want to cry? Because you bombed once? Like, man, pick your face, fix your face, and don't call me with this BS no more. And hung up on him. And everybody was like, damn. The whole life, I was a tough guy. He said, but in that moment, his brother was a tough guy.
Right.
And gave him the tough advice, like, man, you better suck that up and keep it moving. And I want people to have that type of dexterity, because we really do need to suck it up. It's okay. You're gonna have your down moments. We got that. But don't stay there.
For sure. And I mean, because you can't let that voice win, right? And I think that's something
that voice in your head.
I think that's something that you and I have in common, that like we don't have any muscle memory for failure, right? It's like, okay, that happened. Next time I'm gonna do it better.
No.
And it's always with the right intention, and so it allows room to grow. It allows room to make mistakes and to acknowledge when we're wrong, and be open to advisors and allies and people to help guide you. Which is.
I make it a point to celebrate everything I do. Every event, if it's a big event that I put on, no matter the outcome, I go and celebrate. Now I might not be buying y'all drinks, but I go celebrate because I did something. I completed a project.
Right.
No matter the outcome of that project, I celebrate to prepare for the next project.
Indeed.
The tough part is trying to do multiple projects simultaneously, and so that's what I'm attempting to do now. I'm attempting to manage multiple projects at the same time, and what I think I'm gonna do is make sure I have a different person running point on each project, I just check in with these particular people.
It's hard when you have a lot of moving parts.
It's just that I'm planning out the rest of my life, and I want to make sure that I need to speed things up. Well,
I was talking with Aaron Myers last night.
We love Aaron Myers.
We love Aaron Myers.
He's a part of our whole collective.
We're like a whole little
it's
squad.
Like how many of us? Like 6 or 7 of us?
We're so cool too. We got Katia, we got Chris, we got you, we got Aaron.
I love Chris, man. I love Chris. Chris gave me his whole his press contact list for the play. See, he gave me his whole contact list.
I'm gonna have to get a copy of that.
Yeah. Okay.
But for real. But no, we're it's good, man. And this is I really value our friendship and our relationship as well. Like it really matters to me. I mean, I love Grindstone. Grindstone's been like a brother to me for more than a decade. And everybody that I met through him, I mean, I learned about meditating and fasting and everything.
He's a sharp dude.
He's the one who took me to Sembebs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like most, you know what I mean? Like most people now
I haven't even been there.
Don't even know about Sembebs, right? And I learned just so much from Grindstone and the Black community in general. You know what I mean? So I'm just honored to be here, right? I'm
We're glad to have
excited to be a part of anything, and I realized that like my energy wasn't being used in the right way, and so I really value being able to do things behind the scenes with you and Aaron and Katia and Chris, and like fight, at the mayor's office and get that
you're not going to say
legislation.
this, so I'm going to say it. That what you're alluding to is the Amplified Noise Amendment Act.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was going to remove any amplification of any sound in the city. Of course, it was directed at street performance, but it was going to be used against people just like at 7th in Florida at the Metro PCS store. They would have
Exactly.
to deplug that speaker. Okay,
Exactly.
we in result of that created a musical protest out on 7th Gallery Place. We brought the musicians out. We had our press conference. It was a musical press conference is what we called it. We had everyone performing, and we talked in between the acts. And then they lost on the legislation.
Right.
And because certain people read the Business Journal and the Wall Street Journal, they caught the news that the Metro PCS store had been acquired by T-Mobile. T-Mobile bought out Metro PCS. We just looking at the store, the name didn't change because that was that ghetto purchase, and T-Mobile didn't want their name on these ghetto joints for real. And so there was never any mention of that in the Washington Post Express, for example. They give us for free, so we didn't know that. We didn't know that. And so Don at the Metro PCS, when I talked to him, he was telling me how so many complaints was against him. I said, let's do a radio interview. He said, no, I want to keep it quiet because I don't want to, upset,
poke the hive.
But then when whoever in the Shea found out that T-Mobile, because they had to, because they called T-Mobile. They contacted
T-Mobile.
They threatened T-Mobile to sue T-Mobile if they didn't stop this noise, quote unquote. And so they acted like a corporation does and say, yo, you got to get rid of it, if you want, or you're going to lose your contract. And he was scared to lose his livelihood. So hence we are.
Right.
And so I go to him again. I say, yo, we need to make some noise about this.
Right.
And he was like, no, I don't want to, because I don't want to piss off T-Mobile. We're talking right now. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And he said, I don't want any protests on in front of our joint. That's what he says. And so I say, okay, we want to go across the street.
Right.
So we take it across the street and we do our thing.
Yeah.
Right. And 2 council members came. You know how hard it is to get a council member to come to one of your
100%.
events? I had 2 of them,
Right.
and I ain't called neither one of them.
Right.
Right. Brianna Nadeau, who was a bad chick, she did her thing.
Yeah.
Robert
White.
Yeah, Robert White. Yeah. They did the right thing. And they was there in the rain. I did this in the rain.
Yeah.
Okay. And we was out there. Tone P was there. Tone P said, yeah, we got to do this. We got to do more of this.
Right.
Yada Yada came out. Yada said, yes, we got to do more of this.
Yeah.
And then the next days, then you see Don't Mute DC, who was created, the hashtag was created by a Howard University student from, I don't know where she's from, Ohio or some shit.
Somewhere, yeah.
And so then you saw that take off.
Exactly.
And that is the timeline of what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Direct.
And then that's not saying that we're supposed to take credit or Don't Mute DC, but yes, we set off a chain of events that resulted in this. You know what I'm saying?
But what it took was, and this is why I really respect Chris and Aaron, it took us going and creating legislature and going with the right lawyer speak and the right paperwork and holding.
You remember we had the council member? We was in the channel. We had Jack Evans was in there. Yeah. Poor Jack. Poor Jack.
No, I don't feel sorry for Jack.
I'm gonna give him my condolences because again, see, this is where I get in trouble at because I talk shit about everybody. Jack Evans, who is, yes, of course, the mafioso of the council and been getting away with dirt for 30 years. But you have to ask yourself, why is he now being investigated? He's been doing it for 30 years.
For 30 years,
So why you just now, because this is what I submit to you, is that if you go back and watch his last swearing-in ceremony when he was reelected, he was sounding like Martin Luther King. He was like, everybody here in the bad times should get to stay here in the good times, and this city is flush with money, and we could afford to make all the schools equitable so every student in the city has the same resources and chances and afforded the same opportunities. And I support property tax cuts. Go back and watch that.
Right.
Look it up.
Right.
And then look at when the charges start coming up.
Right.
Wait a minute, you singing a different tune, Jack.
Right.
What's up with that, Jack? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's my thing, because he knows where all the bones are buried.
100%.
And what they do first, they removed him for his chairmanships because he was the chairman of the finance committee. He was, you know what I'm saying? He was the dude. He was a dude. And that's my thing. I'm not gonna sit here and cheerlead for him, but that is truth. And people can go vet that, just like they can go vet the timeline from the Amplified Noise Amendment Act to Don't Mute DC and the people that was involved with that. and gave it its foundation. No disrespect for all the people that done fantastic work since then, because it has has become a nationwide movement. I was in Seattle,
huge.
Washington. I
Yeah.
was in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
They call them Washingtonians too, by the way.
Yeah.
Who they have gentrification there too.
I mean,
And they heard of Don't Mute DC.
Yeah,
they knew about Don't Mute DC in Seattle.
It's amazing, honestly, But like I said, the biggest takeaway for me is that you got to change the legislature. Like, we can't just be in the streets. Like, we have to go down to those buildings. We got to write the thing. We got to get in the faces of the council members.
Exactly.
We have to be, forced to be heard. And
we are our own lobbyists. We don't have lawyers and lobbyists working on our behalf. We have to do that.
We have to do that. And I didn't realize that, and I've taken, I mean, I knew, but I think that, like, we get told that that's, like, for somebody else, those things, right?
Yes.
And it's like someone else is going to do
we are the leaders
like,
we've been waiting for.
We have to do it
are
ourselves.
The leaders we've been waiting for. We have to do it. And that's what I tell people, that it's our time. It's our time. We have to do it. And I have to give a shout out to what's my brother's name? Anwar Salim. And Anwar Salim is heads the 8th Street Festival.
Yeah.
And back in the day, the Black Love Festival was actually larger than the 8th Street Festival at one point. And they came to us and like, yo, can we table to promote? They're cool. It was all dope. So the 8th Street Festival was the day before the Black Love Festival, and we would come out and tell everybody, come out to 8th Street. We tabling in, da da da. But having said that, he came to my studio one time, and I forget what the interview was. We was talking about something, and he says to me, Kymone, you guys are not making enough noise over here. He was talking about east of the river, and this was people. I mean, the deputy, what do you call it? The deputy mayor, east of the river, told me to my face, like, yo, the city is changing. It's inevitable, so get ready. I'm like, get ready for what? I'm not. That's your consensus. Like, they actually have said that gentrification is natural. Like rain and storm clouds, i.e., there's nothing you can do about it. They've said that people who were displaced left willingly to search out new opportunities. This is what the government is saying, okay? And so we had to, fortunately, we're in positions of media and information that we were able to clap back, as they say.
Exactly.
Because in their infinite wisdom and vision, they never thought that somebody will open a radical, independent media outlet in Anacostia.
It's amazing.
I was ahead of the curve. But he said that you're not making enough noise over here because you guys have to let sound off. So he had it in my head that we need to make more noise.
Right.
Because up until then, I had just been covering and repeating and just commenting. I hadn't actually, did a press conference. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never, I've had people come to us, yes. But then the Amplified Noise Amendment Act came down. And I was like, oh, we got to do something.
And we did, man.
And we did it. We came together,
It was so beautiful.
We came together. We shared resources. You get the generator. I get the artist. You get the live stream. You get this. And we all put it in, and boom. And then it started rolling. And then of course there was circumstances that actually contributed to our success. People making asinine comments like, I want to open my window and hear birds, not noise.
In Chinatown.
Next to the largest performance venue in the city. Okay, then you need to go somewhere. Oh, well, if Howard students don't like us walking through their campus with our dogs, then maybe the university should move.
Oh my God!
Really?
I can't.
Do you know what happened? Can you imagine what would happen if some brothers took their pit bulls and Rottweilers and was trying to play football on the campus, on a Ivy League school campus? Like, it was police would be called.
Oh man!
So this is where we are, and it's exciting times because all this, like right now, they're trying to destroy Macmillan Park, this huge green space. The city is spending millions of dollars trying to create little strips of green spaces in the middle of streets, just little strips of it. I understand it because you do these little strips all over the city.
It adds
collectively,
up.
it adds up. what I'm saying? But then at the same time, you're gonna destroy one of the largest green spaces in the city
For another condo
for
that
another
nobody
like
needs.
doesn't that seem like problematic to you?
Yeah.
And we also got the fires that was set in the Amazon destroying
Yeah.
the level of oxygen on the globe.
Right.
So these are things that we get involved in, and I just submit that it's a beautiful struggle, and if we all know that we're doing all we can, like if you plant a tree, you're not most likely going to be the person to enjoy the shade of that tree.
Right.
Okay. But should you not plant that tree?
Right.
Plant the. We should be planting trees.
Plant the tree, man.
Yeah, plant the tree, man. So that's what
that should be a T-shirt. Maybe we
plant
come
a
up.
tree.
We'll do some fundraising T-shirts for the next Black Love Festival.
Plant a tree, and your children will enjoy the shade.
Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Well, Kymone.
I hope this was good.
No, it was amazing. I mean, I always love chopping it up with you. It's always a pleasure. I always learn. You have a lot of really amazing quotes, man. You're killing it on the quote game.
Yeah,
sure.
I collect them. They're like my favorite books. That's on your show.
I mean, a good quote really gets you through.
Yeah, it's again, it contributes to your intellectual immune system.
100%.
Yeah.
So one last question. Recommend, like, if there was one book that you would like everybody who has some stirrings of social consciousness inside of them, if you had to recommend one book, what would it be?
Wow, just one book.
I know that's kind of tough.
Yeah. One book. I would have to say the most comprehensive book to challenge everyone's thought process would be A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn.
Okay.
Because it would question everything you've been taught. And once you start questioning everything you've been taught, then I think that will lead off a series of events. There's some other great books a lot of great books, obviously. But I don't think anyone, because like I was about to say the autobiography of Malcolm X, but then somebody might have a pre-notion about Muslims or Elijah Muhammad, who's was problematic, and there's things that you could criticize for, and all, even comments that Malcolm has said, even though he developed and continued to grow and retweak his position, but I don't think there's anything valid that you can use to criticize A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. I mean, the book is so dope. Matt Damon quoted it in the movie Good Will Hunting.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So a book that I read this year that was really influential in my education about, Black America is The History of the Black Dollar by Angel Rich.
I know Angel Rich.
Yeah.
Angel Rich is a friend.
I know. She's going to be on my podcast too.
Yeah, tell her I said what's up.
I met her at a Women in Tech event, and then I was motivated to buy her book.
She is a hustler. She is a stone cold hustler.
And that book, I mean, I thought I was an ally and educated, and then I read that book and I realized how little I knew, about the real struggle. And so that would be my book, like, especially for younger generations,
Angel Rich.
like for something that's accurate right now. Because it tells every single story of any time the Black community amassed any wealth in the United States and then how it was taken away from them.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was things I knew about and there was things I did not know about. Including my Irish heritage, not really holding it down so great. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot.
There were signs in Anacostia that said no N words, no Irish.
Yeah, I mean, we were
like, I've seen the sign. Like, I should send it to you. They're like, no Irish, no. So we got a lot of comments. Shout out to Howard Zinn one more time, because he actually taught at Spelman University, which, as you know, is a school for Black girls, and he was fired. He was too radical for them, because the alumni, or the board, I should say, whoever sits on the board of these universities are the gatekeepers. And so, they fired Howard Zinn from a Black university. Now, just had to throw that out there.
I mean, hey, if that doesn't motivate you to keep going,
because that's like this whole race and these social constructs. A lot of this is bull, and we need to break those down. Those walls need to come crumbling down.
I'm with it, man. Well, I'm right behind you.
Yeah, we need bridges, not walls.
I like that.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming on and spending some time talking to me.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All
And
right. Thanks for being a bridge, Molly. Everybody
hey.
loves Molly.
Hey,
Yeah, we popping Molly in this
hey.
junk.
I'm sure everybody loves that except for my mom. You
Oh,
know what
yeah?
I mean? She's not too thrilled, but
That's
yeah,
because she
man.
hasn't tried it.
Not that she's not yet anyway. Maybe I'll slip some in her Earl Grey when she's not looking. But
Is your father still with us?
yes.
Yeah,
He's not with me, but he's somewhere. You know?
Tell your father to try these bitters from Ghana.
Okay.
It's an elixir.
I'm sure he's.
Yeah, this will get you
right
going. This will get you going.
Shout out to Origin.
Origin.
Ooh.
Ghanaian bitters. It's a spirit drink. It's an elixir. Yeah. Keep your heart like Rockwalla.
And on that note, always a pleasure, man.
Molly, thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you to you. Your lovely Panama. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Our journey's only just begun, man.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
It's a great time to be alive.
It is, man. It is.
Yeah.
And you've helped me see that in a lot of ways. So thank you. Okay. And on to the next one. You know.
Yeah, we gonna get some grant money together.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
All right, man.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah, I love you, man.
Respect.